There we go. Welcome everyone to the next of our Comrades Marathon webinars. It is amazing to be with you once again. I love the interwebs that we get to speak to Comrades runners, not just in every single corner of South Africa, but every single corner of the world as well. A very big hearty welcome to you. It is amazing to have you along for the ride this evening. I see lots of people are still clicking on, which is brilliant. And in the meantime, do let us know in the chat where you are joining us from. That's the first thing you need to tell us. Say, hi, it's Joe. I'm joining you from wherever you are at the moment. And tell us how many Comrades you've done. If you're a novice and this is your first Comrades, we want to know that. If you have done an up run and you're going back for your very first down run, we'd love to know that as well. And perhaps you're going for your green number. Maybe you're going for a double green. Who knows? We want to know. So pop it into the chat wherever you are watching this. And just a couple of shout outs to people who are joining us at the moment. We've got Louise who's joining us from the UK. Welcome, Louise. Nice to have you on. Henry's joining us from Rouville in the Free State. We've got Peter John August joining us from Cape Town, just around the corner from me. Cool. I love it. People joining us from all over. Glenn Morris is joining us from Cape Town as well. Glenn was at the roadshow at Constantia last Thursday as well. A brilliant roadshow put on by the Comrades Marathon Association. Kirsty's joining us from Swakopmund, going for green. How's it, Kirsty? Nice to have you on as well. We've got Kaylee joining us from Clarence in the Free State. Cool. People from all over. Keep those messages coming through in the chat. Also, if I can ask you a massive favor, we want to reach as many of the Comrades runners for 2025 as possible. So if you wouldn't mind sharing this link in whichever Facebook groups you're in, or if you're in a WhatsApp group for your running club, please do just copy the link of this live stream, pop it in there and say, come and join us. We have got so much great information to share with you this evening. You don't want to miss this. It could be the difference between you finishing or not finishing Comrades in 2025. We're going to share tons of gold nuggets with you this evening. And it's a very warm welcome if you have just joined us. Just to let you know who our panel is this evening. We've got Lindsay Parry, who's got a postgraduate degree in sports science. He's also the official Comrades Marathon coach. He's led athletes to 4 different Olympic Games, and for the past 25 years has been coaching amateur and professional athletes to PRs and podiums in some of the world's most prestigious races, has helped winners of the Comrades, more coached winners of the Comrades Marathon, and also thousands of back of the packers, just like me and many of you as well. Also a pretty decent run in his own right, a marathon PR of 2:45 and a Comrades best of 7:11. Lindsay Parry, nice to have you with us tonight.
Let me unmute myself. Excellent to be here. Very exciting that we are now in March and the real training has begun.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to dig into the training in a lot more detail tonight. Also, a very warm welcome to Xoliso Mthembu, who is the social media and brand officer at the Comrades Marathon. She's got experience in marketing, communications, branding, and social media, both in corporate and non-profit organizations, and has experience in assisting and planning, implementing trail running and mountain bike events across South Africa, and is doing a sterling job on the Comrades Marathon roadshows. Xoliso is joining us from KZN this evening. Xoliso, nice to have you with us.
Well, thank you, Brad. It is lovely to be here. Looking forward to a great evening with the runners across the world. Thank you.
Absolutely. And then also a very special welcome to Nikki de Villiers, who has on the call as well. She seems to have just dropped off. She will be back in a second. Nikki graduated as a dietitian at the University of Pretoria, and she's completed a postgraduate diploma through the International Olympic Committee and a master's degree in dietetics. She's been working in the field of dietetics for around 20 years. And has been concentrating on sports nutrition for the last 14. She consults to various PSL football teams here in South Africa, professional rugby teams, and to the Comrades Marathon Association, as well as individual athletes at all levels. Nikki is super modest. She has worked with Olympians at the top level, right down to the rest of us, back of the packers at the Comrades Marathon as well. And Nikki is going to be sharing some incredible information with us this evening. And just a short note of, if you don't know who I am, my name is Brad Nadalt, and I'm known as the guy who lost the Backstreet Boy en route to running his very first Comrades Marathon. I've done 3 Comrades. I've run 5 Ironmans. And the good news is I don't have a marathon PR of 2:45 like Lindsay does. And it's more like 4:17. My Comrades best is 10:39. And I'm just going to be holding everything together tonight to make sure that it flows smoothly, asking your questions that you pose in the comments to our esteemed panel this evening as well. So please do keep those questions coming. We love questions throughout these presentations. The more interactive we can make it, the more helpful it is for you and for your running mates as well. And along with Lindsay, I also co-founded CoachParry.com. I think it's time to jump straight into things. As I said, questions, if you've got any, the chat is where you can post those. I'll be monitoring those throughout this evening, and we'll be getting to all of those as we go through. We'll try and answer as many of them as we can throughout tonight's presentation. But I think without further ado, let's jump straight into things. And I'm going to hand you over to Xolisa and Tembu to talk a little bit about Comrades, what's coming up, what you need to know. If there's any changes from a housekeeping perspective. Xolisa, it's over to you.
Well, thank you, Brad. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Comrades webinar. Just so you know, we are 94 days away from the race day, 8 June, Sunday, this year. So with that being said, there are a few things that I really like to get across to our runners. So to those of you that had opted for the 2 plan installment and the runners that had opted for the Runners Relief Fund, next week, Friday, March 14th, is the deadline for you guys to settle the payment, and those that have still outstanding supporting documents that they need to submit, please do so by Friday next week at before 4:30. So 14 March, before 4:30. Please make sure that you submit all the outstanding documents that are needed for the Runners Relief Fund, as well as on the following Monday, just after the deadline for the 2 installment plan and the Runners Relief Fund, the substitution period is going to open. So it's going to run from 17 March up until 15 April. So from 17 March to 31st of March, that's when the withdrawal periods open. So runners who wish to withdraw from the Comrades Marathon for the year 2025 may do so during this period from 17 March up until 31st of March. So after 31st of March, which is the 1st of April, runners will then open entries for runners to be able to enter. We will close entries on 15 April or when the cap is reached, depending on the number of runners that are going to withdraw from the race. So we really do urge runners to please make use of this period. Make sure that you enter if you didn't get the chance to enter when we opened entries last year. And for the runners that need to withdraw from the race, please do so between the 17th of March up until the 31st of March. And then on Monday, we did announce that the GEMS Comrades Disadvantaged Runners Program applications are open. So if you wish to stay at the Runners Village, please do email me at koliswa@comrades.com to obtain a form, and make sure that you submit all the required supporting document with your form to make sure that this application process is smoother for me and you before the 16th of May. And then with that being said, I don't really like to take much time because I know that you're rushing for Coach Perry. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about our charity program, the Amabedi charity, which are 6 official charities that makes up the Amabedi charities for the Comrades. We've got CHOC, we've got Childline KZN, we've got Community Chest, Durban and PMB, we've got HACT, Rise Against Hunger, and South African National Parks. So we've put together different platforms to help these charities raise funds for their respective causes. We've got Race for Charity, we've got donations with entries, Toyota Winnie Car competition, and Amabedi sales at the expo, as well as on the events that we normally host. Most of you that were at the roadshow yesterday in Durban would have seen the charities that were there selling the merchandise to help them raise funds. So under the Race for Charity, we really do urge runners to sign up to raise funds for Race for Charity. You don't necessarily have to raise 6,000, but if you raise more than 6,000 and get into the C, you will be able to get into the C badge. But you don't have to necessarily raise 6,000. You can raise any amount of money that you feel comfortable raising. You can do this by signing up for Race for Charity. I often get the question in emails, people asking me, how do I join the Race for Charity? So you go onto your EasyReg profile, you log in there, and then you go onto your Comrades entry. And under your Comrades 2025 entry, you will see where it says edit Race for Charity information. If you had previously clicked no, please click yes, and then you're going to pick a profile picture that you want to use for your profile. And then you're going to pick the charity that speaks to you most. It depends what you're really passionate about. Are you close to people with cancer due to a personal relationship with that, or is it conservation, or is it children, or hunger, or anything else that might relate to you in terms of the 6 official charities that we have? And then there's a little block in there where you can write the message to your supporters, asking them to support your initiative to help you raise funds for whatever charity that you are going to choose. So currently, I took the screenshots during midday today. It might be a little bit over this now, but currently under the Race for Charity, we've managed to raise over 1 million. We're aiming for 7 million, but we just hit a 1 million mark. And I'm super excited about that one. And all thanks to you. This is just Race for Charity. It does not include the tickets with the winner car competition, donations with the entries. It's just runners putting out they're putting themselves out there, asking the supporters, the family, the friends and colleagues to donate to their respective charities. And with that, I'd like to say to our top fundraisers, well done, guys. Keep pushing. And everyone else that has already signed up, well done. Keep pushing. I'm pretty sure we'll reach 7 million rand by the end of the fundraising cycle for 2020-25. So this is the winner car competition that is sponsored by Toyota I was talking about. So this year, Toyota has sponsored the 2025 Corolla Cross, and you can get the tickets through our website, or you can buy the tickets at any of our 6 charities at 50 Rand. And then the winner is going to be announced on race day at around 5 p.m. It's going to be live on TV. So please do go ahead onto the website and buy. Or if you come across any of our charities, please approach them and ask to buy a winner car ticket. These are the examples of the merchandise that we normally give to the charities to sell. Each year we try to make something new, something different and vibrant. But this is just an example of what we normally give to the charities to sell to the runners, to the supporters at the expo, as well as on the road shows. And right here, this is the overall. This includes donations with entries, the win a car competition tickets, the race for charity. So we more or less like 1.5 million, including all the fundraising platforms put together. This is how much we've managed to raise so far. So this is all that I had to say from my side. So if you've got questions, you can email info@comrades.com. It's going to get directed to the relevant person, or you can call our office or go to the Comrades website and look for whatever information that you are looking for. Thank you.
Well, Lisa, awesome. Thank you so much for that, and love that the charity amounts are growing. And I really do want to urge everybody who's listening. I mean, 1.5 million Rand sounds like a lot of money, but we have got a lot of international runners coming out, and these charities do incredible work here in South Africa on the ground. They literally every single Rand that they get, they put to work as hard as they can. So I really do want to urge everyone, in particular, the international runners coming out to South Africa, to really try and make a difference with their Comrades run. Make sure you do join the Race for Charity initiative. It is great, and we do appreciate all the efforts from all the runners as well. Lisa, thank you so much for that. I know you will stick around if there are any sort of housekeeping questions. If anybody has questions, feel free to pop them into the chat as well. You're more than welcome to pop them in there, and we'll get you're most welcome, and we will get the team to answer those. Let me get our next speaker up onto the stage. I see we halfway through his slides already. Lindsay Barry, nice to have you on the webinar. If somebody has just joined us as well, Lindsay is the official Comrades Marathon coach, doing some amazing work, and has helped thousands of runners over the years get their Comrades medal. So, Coach, over to you. Some great questions coming through already. I'm going to hand the reins over to you. I know you've got a lot you want to get through to tonight, and then we'll get Nikki on to talk some serious nutrition stuff and really dig into how to make sure you fuel your race properly come 2025. But before we do that, we need to make sure we're training properly in the build-up. It is all yours, Lindsay.
Cool. Yeah, and I don't have tons today, Brad, because the focus is on nutrition, and there's a very good reason why we do things in the order that we do. Last time out, we focused on strength because it's so critical for the down run. And this webinar, we're going to focus on nutrition because, as I have discussed many times in the past, it's just such an important part of both training, recovery, fueling for training, and then for race day. And we want to give you plenty of time. So that is where the bulk of today's presentation is going to go to nutrition. And then hopefully there'll be loads of questions on both the training and the nutrition at the end. So the traditional, where are we now? Well, we're in March. And I think we've said it enough times that hold back, don't train too hard, build up slowly, lay the foundation. Well, that's been done. Foundation laid, and we are now in March. So is it too soon to panic? As my good friend Kirsten would say, it's never too soon to panic. In fact, I would go as far as to say that now is the right time to panic and make sure that we train properly. So I am going to go through a little bit of exactly what you should be doing now before I then hand over to Nikki to talk about the nutrition. Okay, so just a little recap of what it is that we are trying to achieve. We are preparing to run 90 kilometers with some of the biggest climbs you will have any race anywhere. And the big five that you are all very familiar with by now, and even the internationals tend to be au fait with the big five. But of course, whenever we talk to internationals after their first Comrades, and particularly here down Comrades, the question always is, there were so many hills. And the truth is, you'll be hard pressed to find a kilometer of flat running on the Comrades route. And you'll hear this again, it won't be the last time. You will also be forgiven for thinking, if it's your first down run, that you are part of the world's greatest practical joke ever. When you've hardly run downhill for the first 23 kilometers, it's almost all been up. Okay. So that is what we are preparing for. I've been through that in the previous webinar. I'm certainly gone through it enough times in the road shows for those of you that have attended those. And we will go through the route in minute detail on the, it's in May, I think. I can't remember the date now, but the 28th of May, I think, is the date, but somewhere around there. And then, of course, never ever forget about Fields Hill. And that is one of the big reasons why we harp on about strength training all the time, and why we went into it in so much detail on the previous webinar. But that is really the course, and what these webinars, road shows, ladies boot camps, what it's all about. Comrades plans on the website is that we want to make sure that you guys make it to the start line. At Comrades, we want to make sure that you are one of the runners that gets to start, but very importantly, you've got to make it to the finish line. We want you to be one of these incredibly happy faces that makes it to the finish line and gets your finishing medal. And of course, we don't just want you to do it. We want you to do it and enjoy it. We want you to be strong. We want you to get the best out of your Comrades experience. Okay. Never forget the stat that 68% of runners who do not finish Comrades start the race injured. So really what we are trying to do here is get you to Comrades with your health, feeling fit, strong, and without an injury, and that will greatly improve your ability to finish. Okay, we are, as you saw on the first slide from Toli, we are 94 days from race day. The time to panic is now. If you haven't started doing strength training yet, please, 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 I'm begging you to start your strength training. I'm being like, I played a round of golf in the December holidays in Plet, and the caddy actually begged me to slow my swing down. He said, please, sir, I'm begging you to slow down your swing. And this is me, Comrades coach Lindsay Perry, begging you to please start doing your strength training. Going to touch on qualifying again very briefly. Hopefully, tons of you on this call have qualified already. I know there's still a couple of biggish qualifiers coming up, but very importantly, I think the best way I can sum this up is the best time to qualify is when you're ready, so that you only have to do it once. But now that we're in March, when you qualify, you need to qualify with the least effort possible. Okay, that's very important. I'll explain that shortly. But really, what I want to quickly make sure of again is that you are following the right plan. So there are plans on the Comrades website. You can also jump onto the Coach Parry website where you can get access to plans and strength plans. But make sure that you select the right plan. Okay, so if you are a 5-hour marathoner, you are on the finishers plan. 2.5 hours. If you haven't yet run a marathon, there's half marathon times there in brackets to really tell you where you should be. So 5 hours finishers bronze, 4:25 marathon or thereabouts, a 2:09 half marathon, sub 4-hour marathon. Then Robert Machali is your plan, sub 2 hours for a half. Bill Rowan 3:35 or quicker, 1:45 for the half. And then your silvers and Isabel Roche Kelly sub 3 hours and around 1:26 for the half. And of course the Wally Haywards, the Racing Snakes, the sub 6-hour finishes, 2.5 hours for the marathon or 72 minutes. So that is all stuff that you've heard before, and a very quick run through to remind you of some important numbers. So where are we now? We are building up steadily through this month. So you probably ended last month, if you're a finishers, you probably ended last month in the region of 40 to 50 kilometers per week consistently. Now we're going to move that slowly through March, probably going to get you to 55, 60 Ks a week. For the finishers, though, I'm not too bent on us getting all the way to 60, because what we want to do is be consistent. And then in March, we're going to do a longer run. In April, we're going to do a longer run. And in May, we're going to do a longer run. And so you're essentially going to have 2 weeks that are going to be in the 50 to 60 range, and then one big week, and then a nice recovery week. And that's kind of what it's going to look like. For the bronze medalists, we're definitely going to start hitting the 60K mark, a couple of weeks that are going to be higher than that. You might even settle somewhere around 70 to 75 Ks by the time you get to the end of March and we move into the peak weeks for April. For the Bill Rowan guys, you're going to be hitting around the 90. So you're probably minimum 80, but closer to 90 Ks by the end of March. The silver guys, you should be hitting the hundreds now for sure, and you will be hitting 120 plus weeks as you get into the final week of March. So that is the training that we want to be hitting. In terms of what we're going to be doing, we want to build strength. So for the down run, I like to be doing hill work now, really prepare you for the climbs in the first half. You're going to do 1,000 meters of climbing on the up run. So it's very definitely not just a case of downs. You are going to do the 1,700 meters of elevation loss during Comrades. So it's a net loss of 700 meters, but you've got that 1,000 meters of climbing. And so we are going to do hills, lots of hills and hill repeats through this little part. And if you can, do your long training runs on hilly routes now. They don't have to be super steep. Okay, we don't always have choice, but your preferred type of long run on your long run hill, sorry, your preferred type of hill on your long runs is a longer, more gradual climb. Okay, so you're looking, most of the climbs at Comrades are between 2 and 3%. So you want more gradual and longer hills. That's what you're looking for in your long runs. And then again, like, you might get sick of me saying it, but I'm not going to stop saying it until everyone's doing strength training, and I know you're not. So that's really where we want to go now. Okay, just a quick touch again on the qualifying and seeding. And really what I want to say about that is that I don't know what announcement is coming. I have an inkling what it's about, and I don't know when it's coming. But what I can tell you is that your actual seeding in terms of time lost on race day is not going to be nearly as important as it has been in the past. Okay, so I know that sounds cryptic, and the honest truth is that I don't know what change is coming, but have been told, and it was said out loud at a roadshow last night, so I don't feel like I'm selling anyone down the river there. So change is coming at the start, and that change is going to have a positive impact on time lost, if there's any time lost at all. But again, we will wait for that announcement, and obviously I will adapt my pacing charts and everything else around it accordingly. But the principle still applies, that we need to train hard now. I've just given you the numbers. We want to start building up. For a lot of you, that means you're going to be running more than you've ever run before in your life. So you cannot actually afford to now also run a hard marathon in that mix. Okay. So remember, we're going to qualify when we're ready, and we're going to qualify with as little effort as we can muster. Now, if you are a borderline 5-hour runner, then you've got to go there. You've got to do your best, but then you have to allow yourself to recover afterwards. And that is going to compromise your training, but compromising your training is better than getting injured, because remember, 68% of the people who do not finish Comrades start with an injury. So that is what we're going to avoid. Okay. So for the next month, we are not going to chase our seeding. We're not going to try and improve our seeding. We're going to be happy with our seeding. You can still jump forward to the CC batch and raise a lot of money for charity and get yourself near the front of the race. But what we don't want to do is race hard between now and Comrades and actually ruin our chances of having a good Comrades. Okay. Don't miss our webinar on the 28th of May. And there we go. So I did have the date right. That's brilliant. So I do remember some things. And we are going to tell you how to save 20 minutes on race day. And that's going to be so important, because whatever announcement coming, however faster you can get across the start line, this 20 minutes will take all the pressure off you, so that you don't feel like you are against the cutoffs all day long. Okay. Right. I think that is it from me for this evening, Brad. We can get on to the next one.
Awesome stuff. Brilliant. Lindsay, thank you for that. And I think there is a lot of great info. Lots of questions coming through. I'm going to shoot one your way if I can in the meantime. Liesel, let me pop this in here. So let me pop that onto the screen. Liesel says, first Comrades and fairly new to marathons. Any advice on how I can save my toes? My right little toe is one big blister. Liesel, all I can say is toes are overrated. I'm still trying to figure out why we actually need them. So yeah, Lindsay, I would just say cut them off, but you can't.
No. So look, if this is one of those that's quite specific, and in some ways it makes it easier. So if it's the right little toe, then it can very definitely be linked to socks. Some socks have got a tiny little bubble, almost like where they're seamed and tight, and that often is right on that little baby toe. Similarly, most shoes come in and curve inwards, and so the shoe might just be a fraction narrow for you. And so that's another thing you can look at. There are certain brands like New Balance that bring in different widths. So, make sure that the shoe that you're wearing, maybe you can get the same make model because you like it, but you can get it slightly wider. A half size is not only wider, it's also a little bit longer. So be careful of just simply thinking you can solve it by getting a half size bigger. But certainly also within different brands of shoes, you tend to get shoes that are for a runner with a slightly narrower foot and for a runner with a slightly broader foot. So yeah, head into your local running store, because that is the kind of thing that can get horribly painful over 90 Ks, and it can make things very difficult towards the end of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Lindsay, one more quick question before we get Nikki de Villiers on to talk nutrition. And this one is from Charlene. Charlene wants to know, what is the actual distance this year? Do you know?
I don't. And I promise you that we will know as soon as they finish measuring the course. So they do that in sections. And obviously part of that is a safety issue, because it takes a long time and they're doing it on foot. And so they have to get the traffic department out when they do these little stretches, little bits at a time. But you can work on a little longer than 89. And just looking at the maps, I think you can work on less than 90, but more than 89. So somewhere between 89.3 and 89.8, I would guess. But no, the official distance has not been finalized yet.
All right, cool. And I'm going to squeeze in one more because I like this question. And it's actually a double whammy because there's two people asking a very similar question. This one from Rhodes and Glovu. Rhodes is saying, how many Comrades runs should one do on one shoe at most? So I'm guessing that's Comrades as in the race or training runs. I'm not sure. I don't know if you want to talk about shoes in general. And then Louise wanted to know when's the best time to break in a new pair of shoes. Same brand, same model.
Yeah, so those are two cool questions. So even when you run in the same make and model, Brad, I often find that there's just a shoe for whatever reason. It just feels right on your foot. So whenever I get a shoe like that in a training cycle, I will run between 150 and 250 Ks in that shoe. And then I keep that shoe pretty much for race day. And so that kind of answers the second part of that question too, is like, how many kilometers should we run in shoes? And that's keep track of your shoes. And if you're getting to like middle of April, and you realize, hang on, I've done like 600 Ks in my shoes, then you know that by the time you get to Comrades, those shoes are going to be shot. So you need to get yourself a new pair. And, the same principle applies. You want to try and get to around 200, maximum 400 Ks in your shoes that you're going to run Comrades in. But 200 is a nice number, well worn, plenty of cushioning left. Of course, if we're talking about racing shoes, and whether you should be racing in carbon or not is a completely different question. But I think that was Rhodes' question that he was asking. And I wouldn't run more than 50 Ks in a pair of carbon shoes. So literally just enough for that shoe to be run in. And then I'll run Comrades in and I'll throw it away. But the truth is that Lindsay Parry as an individual wouldn't run Comrades in a pair of carbon shoes.
All right, cool. Keep those questions coming. Pop them into the chat. I'll be flagging them throughout, and we'll post some more to Lindsay after our next speaker as well. And I'm sure you are going to have lots of questions throughout this next part of the presentation as well. Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us. It's time to get our next speaker onto the call. And Nikki de Villiers is a phenomenal nutritionist and dietetic specialist. She's worked with professional athletes as well as amateurs for many, many years. She's consulted to PSL football teams, to professional rugby teams, and to the Comrades Marathon Association for many, many years as well. And she's going to be running through exactly what you should be focusing on from a nutrition point of view in the build-up to Comrades, and also looking at how to tackle race day as well. Nikki, an absolute pleasure to have you on once again. I'm going to hand it over to you. I'm sure there are going to be lots of questions. Please do keep them coming. And again, if you wouldn't mind just sharing this link in whatever WhatsApp groups you're in, if you have a Running Club Comrades group, please do share it there. Or if you're in a Facebook group, just copy the link from this live stream, pop it in there. We'd really like to reach as many Comrade runners as we can and get this information into as many people's hands as possible. So, Nikki, it is over to you. Look forward to hearing your presentation once again. You always have such great information to share. So I am going to just remove myself. Let me do this and then hand it over to you, if that's okay.
That's perfect. Thanks so much, Brad. I think you're going to have to organize my slides, right? I can't see where I...
So yeah, that is perfect. I will, give me a hand with that.
Welcome, everyone. Yes, let's talk about the food. And I think it is important to now start training with whatever is coming up and for the distances. All right. So basically what's on the menu for tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit about the energy needs and the quantity, because we're running more, we need to eat more. And that is a thing, I think it's number A of the ABC. And I think a lot of people there struggle, especially as you ramp up your training, that we don't always understand how much food is necessary for the training. We're going to look at timing and consistency. So consistency is what we want in nutrition as well. So we're going to look at what to do before, during, and after trainings. So we deal with quantity first, and then we go into the quality stuff, that everything that we need extra is not just going to be made up of donuts and Coke, all right? And then I'm going to talk a little bit about hydration. So let's start with the energy needs, Brad. All right, I've got one slide about this, and this is this one. So it is always difficult to predict. I know everybody's often running with watches that predicts the energy output was 100 or 1,000 calories for this session, or 500 or 600. And that's often how we then make up our mind in terms of what we're eating. But I think some or most of us underestimate what it costs not only to run, but to live. So if I say we must eat enough, it means there's a basic need that your body need in terms of the physiological processes. So your heart, your liver, your kidney, your lungs, your eyes, everybody that's in the system needs a little bit of energy. And the problem that we have is, as soon as you start training and you're training more and more and more and you're not eating more, the body will favor the training. So the body will give whatever energy it receives, it's going to pay the bill for your training first. And whatever then is left over, that must go to physiology. So we can mess it up really badly here and still feel relatively good in training. I think the other problem with this as well is that if you train those loads, you're always tired and sore. So it's not something that we can really eat away, if I can put it like that. But what I want to bring under your attention is, please, guys, if there's an increase in training load, please increase food intake and do it timelessly. So in other words, if I have a hard week ahead, start eating harder on Monday. Don't wait until you're hungry or tired or miserable and then start picking up the food intake. All right. To make it more practical, I've got these 3 pictures on your screen. So it's basically where we divide the food into 3 different groups, not 5 as we know it. So the one area is the fruit and vegetable group, that's all grouped into one group here on this plate. More your protective food, right? So it protects against quite a few things, and that supports a bit of your immune system. Then we've got the whole grains. So the grain group is where most of your carbohydrate come from, and it's where most of your fuel comes from. And then we've got the protein group, which is more the recovery nutrient. All right. So they would be the meat, the fish, the chicken, those kind of things. So according to these plates, you will see the distribution of these groups on the specific plate. So if you look at the weight or the easy training or the weight maintenance plate or weight management, that's the blue picture. You will see that half of the plate coming from fruit and vegetables, a quarter of your plate coming from starch, and a quarter of your plate coming then from whatever protein source you're looking for. In this stage that you're entering, if the training is going to up tremendously, please, guys, now is not the time to restrict intake to try and lose weight. It is going to, if you're going to restrict intake with, simultaneously increase your energy output through the running, there's going to be problems. And the problem is that you're not going to feel it in immediately. You're going to feel it in 3, 4, 5 weeks time, and then it's difficult to recover from that dungeon. If you look at the moderate training, you will see still the 3 groups, but now you will see that the grains or the starch part of the plate will increase. So we eat more from carbohydrate containing food. So more rice, more pasta, more bread, more cereal, more, any of the starches. You will still eat vegetables in every plate. You will still eat your protein. The protein part, the meat part stays the same. I know a lot of people think we need more meat to run with, but that will stay the same on the plate. If I say we need more of the protein, I mean in between. So we need to eat more often, some protein sources. And in this gray plate in the middle, you will see now the fruit has moved to the outside of the plate. And this means that now we start eating a little bit more regularly, not only the 3 meals, but we start eating in between snacks. And then if you look at the hard training or any kind of race day that you prepare for, you will see that half the plate now is allocated towards the starches, which is your main fuel food. You still have a quarter of the plate being your meat part, and you've got a quarter of the plate being the vegetable part. And important when introducing these plates or when interpreting this message, this picture, that we do it beforehand. So you do eat or change your meals according to what you're going to do, not in terms of what you've done. That is also sometimes difficult because not a lot of people will think of, I'm going to run 12 Ks today or 14. I mean, you're at a stage where, you know, a light run is 12 or 14 and a better run is, you know, 21. So therefore, when you run a 21 or 42, then sometimes we do think, okay, it's going to be hard. Let's eat an extra. But if you do day by day training, we often don't. And I beg you to please eat for what you're going to do, not every time for what you've done, because it will save you a lot of trouble. All right. So make sure you eat enough. How would you know? If you're losing weight, you're under eating. If you are constantly craving stuff, especially sweet stuff, you're properly under eating. If you're consistently so sore that you have to give off sessions, you're properly under eating. And if you're tired and miserable 100% of the day, I'm not talking tiredness necessarily in training and only in training, but tiredness, you're sitting at a desk and you're falling asleep. You're sitting in, you know, you're falling asleep behind the steering wheel, those kind of things. It is small indications or red flags that there is maybe something wrong with the nutrition. All right, let's move on. Brand, if you can move on for me. So what is going to fuel the run? So what must we eat more of? I think according to those plates, you know, the answer is quite simple. If you look at what you use during training, you use always a mix of carbohydrate and fat and a little bit of protein. If I can relate the fuel sources as follows. So carbohydrates, see it as your jet fuel, the fat as the diesel tank, and the protein as the emergency fuel. So what it means is, again, you should think of what I'm going to do in the session and fuel accordingly. If I'm going to do a sprint set, or if I'm going to do hills, or if I'm going to do a hard incline, you know, you do a race and there's a lot of climbing, then those sessions will cost more carbohydrate and less fat. If it's just a flat surface for hours of our end, nothing with excessive speed, then it's probably going to be more fat. So what I mean by this is the body uses predominantly carbohydrate and fat, and depending on the intensity, the higher the intensity, the more carb, lower intensity, more fat. If you look at a Comrades race, we're never going to sprint it, so you will use quite a bit of fat in that race. But the lucky part is, as you train, you become much better in fat oxidation. So you get it for free with your training. So there's not much we need to be doing there. And the fat storage in the body is big. So we don't have to load fat into the diet. The thing comes with the carbohydrate that if you run out of carbohydrate, there is a possibility or high risk for premature fatigue. You will get tired. So the carbohydrate storage is limited in the body. So you've got a little bit in the muscle, a little bit in the liver. If you run out of it, the feeling that you will describe or that you'll experience is probably, if the muscle glycogen is done, you feel that feeling of everything in me wants to go, but I just don't have the gear. So you don't have the kick, which is okay. You can just revert slower and just carry on doing. You know, there's not a necessity to sprint this thing. If the liver glycogen, although is dropped or there's not enough there, you will find that the blood sugar levels fall. This can be quite dramatic in the sense that it causes quite a bit of confusion on your run. So that can be quite dangerous in terms of concentration levels and injuries and falling and those kind of things. All right. So you will see in this little picture that I said, if you walk or do a very slow jog, you will see the fat carbohydrate distribution, so 75% of the mix. So say think of what you measure on your phones or your devices. So if the expenditure in that session is 1,000 kilocalories, right? And it's a very walk or very slow jog, that 750 kilocalories will be fat, and the other 250 will be carbs, right? So that would be okay, depending if you've got stuff in the tank. If there's carbs in the tank, you should be okay. If you're on fasting or keto diets or those kind of things, we're going to have to add a little bit of carbs. If it is a fast run, you will see then the carbohydrate contribution gets more. So about a 52% of carbs and about a 48% of fat. This is if you run about 60% VO2 max. And then very fast, which we're not really going to do in Comrades, but some of your trainings will be there. Then you use predominantly carbohydrate, 80% and 20% fat. Your strength training sessions will also be predominant carbohydrate sessions. and less fat sessions. All right. So what I'm saying is feel for what you're going to do, and I'll get back to amounts just now. As I said, fat is not that necessary to, no, you're good to go. You can move on. That necessary to fuel. So if we then have to do a pre-race meal, the main issue with the pre-race meal, we want to fill up tanks so that we know we've got a glycogen tank somewhere that's going to work for us, although it's not big, but we want it filled. We want to make sure there is carb available whilst I'm running. We want to make sure that I don't get hungry whilst I'm running. And we want to make sure whatever I put in my stomach does not upset my stomach whilst I'm running. And all this recommendation is especially towards the carbohydrate intake. So you will see in the illustration here with the, what color is this? Red bars, that we usually have a carbohydrate intake that 4 hours, if you're going to eat 4 hours before you go out for a run, the gram of carbs should be 4 grams per kilo. I'm coming to the real deal of it. 3 hours, 3 grams per kilo, 2 hours, 2, and so forth. So most of us, I mean, if you run in the morning currently, you're not going to be waking up at 4 hours prior to. So you're probably going to be in a 1-2 hour bracket. So 1 to 2 grams of carbs per kilo. If you look at the pre-event that I put in there for you, the table, the gray table on this, you will see this. I worked in a person that weighs 65 kilos. So an hour before, we want about 65 grams of carbohydrate to go in. So that would be equal to a banana, a cereal bar, and about 200 mils of fruit juice. If you eat 2 to 3 hours before, you can see that now we work with about 2 to 3 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram. Okay. Do we need to be this pedantic about measuring stuff? We don't. I put it there so that you can see that a half a slice of toast is not going to carry you to 21 kilometers. I know you can run on a half a slice of toast, and I know you can finish 21 Ks on a half a slice of toast. That's all good. But you should think that at the cost of what? And that at the cost of what is often the recovery. And because you're in a heavy training load, we want to recover well so that we can keep on training in the program. Otherwise, we fall behind and we get too much nerves going on. So for now, what I would say is, as I said, I know you can run quite a distance without food, but wake up in the morning and before you go and run, eat something. It can be small. It can be half a cup of juice. It can be half a banana. It can be a rusk. It can be a cereal bar. Or some of you can stomach a whole bowl of oats or a whole bowl of cereal. That's okay. But always remember that you're not only fueling this run, you're training your gut to be able to accept whatever's coming in before your races as well as before the Comrades race. If you're never going to train it and all of a sudden you eat before your race, there's a definite risk that you will feel uncomfortable. All right. So these are the numbers we're working towards. For now, have a carb source before you go into your run, most of your runs. Okay. Next slide. If you then look into during the run, so now during the run, what's going to cause fatigue? Either we're going to run out of fuel, which is then the fuel, the glycogen in the liver or the muscle that I spoke about, or often there's a dehydration component. If I talk about nutrition now, not other things, all right? So during your run, you should start to fuel, especially the long runs, and at least one other run. Okay, so the weekend runs or the long runs is going to really be fueled as if you're going to run a race, and then at least another long or another run throughout the week. And you should fuel those that's at race pace as well, because that's at the end of the day what you're going to do. All right. So if we then make recommendations in terms of how much, it's not about gram per kilogram, because our guts basically is the same size for all of us. Doesn't matter what your size is in body weight. So here we work with gram per hour intake. Again, remember that little calculation that I spoke about? If you burn 1,000 calories during your run and you run at a 60% VO2 max, it was about a 52% carb and a 48 fat or thereabout. All right. If you make that little calculation, you will see that your run properly costs anything in between 60 and 90 grams of carbs per hour. Do we have to eat it? No, because there is in storage. So that's not, you don't have to eat the whole 90 gram. But I want you guys where you are now to start off with getting 30 grams of carbohydrate per hour in, all right? Every hour. So 30 grams would be, if you think of a gel, it's 25 grams. If you think of a normal sports drink, 30 grams would be about a 500 ml of whatever it comes. A banana, a big banana is about 25 grams. If you eat sandwiches, 2 slices is about 30 grams of carbs. So there's various options. I'll get to that. But it means that you can combine stuff. So you can decide, I'm only going to eat carbs and I'm going to drink water, or I'm only going to drink carbs and not eat any carbs at all. It's going to, although, put you in trouble for maybe overhydration, or I'm going to mix the two, right? Every half an hour, I drink 200 mils of a carb drink, and then on the other half an hour, I eat a carb snack as such. Once you get to 30 grams and it's comfortable, you increase to 45. Once you get to 45 and it's comfortable, you increase your intake to 60. For most of us, 60 grams of carbs would be more than enough. The thing that you're trying to achieve here is the comfort of eating and drinking whilst you're running, all right? The gut training, with other words, that the stomach is comfortable what you put in, and that we will then eat and drink in the front part of the race when we still can eat and drink, because there will be a time when you run Comrades that you will not be able to eat and drink, okay? I don't wish it upon you, but there will be a time. And once you get to this time and you did eat, thoroughly or drink thoroughly every, hour, then you're usually okay to set in cruise mode, go on your diesel tank and cruise home, right? But if you're going to wait too long, or if you from the start cannot get these volumes in, it's going to be a very, very long road for you, a very long day on the road. Not necessarily, I'm not talking about time, I'm talking about how you feel. And it's not going to be that enjoyable. All right. So we're really going to work for trying to at least get to 60 grams. The only way in which you'll be able to do it is when you train it. There's no other way. And all of us feel pretty crappy when we start this. It's really hard to eat and drink if you don't feel like doing it. All right. Next slide. Should it be gels, drinks, bars, or chews? I don't care what carb source it is. It must be easy for you, first of all, to carry. Rice cakes doesn't have a lot of carbs. So if you're going to do rice cakes, you're really going to have to carry loads of stuff in terms of volume of stuff. So think of that. Think of what is available on tables so that you don't necessarily have to carry everything. All right. And then think of something that you can get in throughout hours without it. If you're battling now to get in 4 gels in a marathon, there's no way you will be able to get gels as your only fuel on Comrades. And that's why you also don't need a trailer full of stuff. You need 2 or 3 things which this is working for me, and it's always been working. I can get it in when I'm tired. The sweetness is not overpowering or overwhelming, all those kind of things. So be practical, practice what you're going to do on race day, start early, be consistent in what you're doing, and please be flexible. Sorry, that's just my clock. So on this slide, I gave you indications. So sports drink for, it's about 6 to 8 grams of carbs per 100 mils. So if you want to get to 30 grams of carbs and you're only going to use sports drinks, you're going to have to drink 500 mils every hour. And that's quite a hard ask. It's easy for 2 or 3 hours, but it's not that easy if you go 8, 9, 10 hours. Banana, 1 to 1.5 bananas will give you 30 grams of carbs. A gel, 1 to 1.5, depending on which gels you work with. If you do any kind of chew or a lot of these companies has got these chews. It's about 6 of those blocks. If you're going to do jelly beans, it's about 15 jelly beans. All right, that's quite a lot because they're sweet. If you're going to do any of the energy bars, it's usually about 1 to 1.5 that you're going to have to take per hour. All right. And there you need to do your own thing. A lot of people will do something like potato, very, very good, especially with salt, or Marmite sandwiches if you don't want the sweet stuff. So there's various options, and you must run through those options so that you can find whatever suits you best. All right, next one. I think the next one is on. Yeah. Okay. Let's do a little bit of the fluid intake. The recovery is properly coming. The fluid intake is here because that is what I said can be the other aspect that cause premature fatigue. So dehydration can cause a decrease in performance. But it's important to know that your fluid intake does not have to match your sweat rate exactly. So we usually try, when we do fluid recommendations, to work with a 2 to 3% cutoff. So with other words, I don't want more than 2 to 3% dehydration. And 2 to 3% dehydration implies that you don't lose more than 2 to 3% of your body weight in a run. Because we know after that, there is quite a steep decrease in performance. Do not confuse fuel with fluid. I think that is important. So sometimes we would think, okay, we are okay because we had a little sachet of water with the gel that you took. Okay, that little sachet is probably not enough. Or you've got a very diluted sports drink, or we've got bottles of drink that's got electrolytes in it, but not fuel, not carbohydrate, right? And you think you're doing okay because you drank 500 ml of this bottle, but there's no fuel in it. All right, so you need to be reading labels and really make sure what is in the bottle as such. A way in which you can do it is you can figure out your own sweat rate, and then you can determine how much, are you somebody that needs to drink 500 ml or 600 or 700? And that you basically do by weighing yourself before and after your training. So if the deficit or the difference in the weight is about 2 kgs, it means 2 liters of fluid is lost. With that, you add what you had to drink. So say I add 500 mils to drink, so it's 2,500 mils. And then you divide it by the time that you spend on the road. And then you will get, usually in minutes, and then you will get a sweat rate like so many milliliters per minute, or you can then translate it to hours. Then you're somebody that needs about 300 mils, or there's some people that need 600 mils. But everybody does not need the same amount of fluid as such. You will see the urine color chart that we have there. That will also give you indication if you're hydrated or not. So every day just checking urine color. And if it is the lighter color, the light yellow or straw color, that's usually good to go. If it is a very dark color of urine, that will also tell you that you're dehydrated. Also, obviously, at the urine volume, how many times do you have to go to the bathroom every day, and then what is the volume of urine and the color? That is a simple way of just checking that you're doing okay. All right, next one. If we then go into, this is just the dehydration. So there you will see 1% loss, 2 to 3% loss won't give you that performance, the negative performance. But when you get to a 4% loss, you will see a 20 to 30% reduction in work capacity. And then if you get a 5% loss, that's when we run into trouble. And that's probably where you get sleepiness, headaches, a lot of confusion. And that can be the cause while somebody will take you off the route. Okay, next one. Just a few words on electrolytes. So electrolytes currently are generally overhyped. At the moment, everybody's making electrolytes and everybody's drinking electrolytes and everybody's feeling very happy about it because they feel they're taking something that's sugar-free. So water, when you sweat, water is lost much faster than what electrolytes is. So your blood is actually highly concentrated with electrolytes. And most of the sports drinks that you do does contain electrolytes. There's salt in many of these things. Otherwise, it will be undrinkable as such. So from the limited evidence, it does not appear that if you supplement electrolyte as such, that it will benefit your performance. The only benefit that we get is if there's salt in a product, it does make you a little bit more thirsty, so you increase the fluid intake, and the absorption of the fluid intake is maybe a little bit better, that it doesn't just flush through. But I see a horrendous amount of salt tablets going around, or sachets of rehydrate, but every half an hour, or every hour we add more electrolytes to drinks and those kind of things. I think it's also in a way maybe to protect against overhydration. But it can actually, because if you're going to drink a lot of the stuff and you're constantly going to be thirsty, it can actually be to the detriment. All right. So be very, very clear where you want to go with electrolyte replacement. And is it something that you really, really need? You will have a few salty sweaters out there that will need it, or those that's not acclimatized to the environment. If it's, if it's exceptionally humid or hot, but the Comrades is not, it's in winter, so you won't have that extreme temperature going on. All right, next one. Which brings us then, I think, to the, the practice part. So the gut that is highly trainable or adaptable, it's very much like a muscle, but you need to use the intended products 1 to twice a week. So one or two of your runs, or preferably 2 runs, should be fueled as if you're going to race. I don't care if the training is, you need to run like 90 minutes or 100 minutes, and I know that is okay to run it without fuel. You feel it because you're training your gut for something bigger. You're not just training for that 90 or 100 minutes. Increase your intake weekly and work hard towards getting those goals. I think most of the time people will tell me it's impossible to get it. Work hard and get as close as possible to it. Practice at race pace. Avoid all new nutrition. So by the time you go to Comrades, you know exactly your recipe, so that you don't have to do anything new. And also then avoid the expo temptation, or anybody, everywhere that you're going to run, that there's an expo or anything that they have next to the road, or goodie bags that we get with a lot of stuff in. Try, if there's still time to try it out now, but once you've settled on what you're doing, don't try new stuff. You can try it next year again. All right, next one. Refuel after the run. This is extremely important, especially on your training runs. So the 3 R's of recovery in terms of nutrition would be refuel, rehydrate, and rebuild. So the refuel is the most important. That would be with any kind of carbohydrate source. It can be milk, it can be Nesquik, it can be Steri Stumpies, it can be fruit with yogurt, it can be having orange juice, any of those kind of things, or just your normal supper, a bowl of pasta. The rehydrate will be any kind of liquid that you take in that's not alcoholic. Sorry for that one. And then the rebuild will be any kind of protein that you add. So the milky stuff that I've mentioned already have protein in it. If you're going to have the pasta, then you add a bit of chicken or mince or chickpeas or whatever your choice is of protein. So again, if you work with a 65 kg person, the indication is 1 gram per kilogram carbohydrate thereafter. So that will look like a cup of milk with 4 tablespoons of Nesquik. You get a new Nesquik on the market for those of you that haven't seen it. It's called Spoonfuls, all right? 2 tablespoons of raisins, 2 tablespoons of nuts, and that should give you a recovery. Do it as quickly as is comfortable, but if you can, preferably within 30 minutes after you stopped your run. Next one. So this is a few ideas for the recovery meal. So it's milkshake or fruit smoothies or flavored milk. Breakfast cereal and milk usually works well for me. I can eat cornflakes any time of the day. A sandwich with a protein filling and then a sports drink, or you can have fruit salad with yogurt or custard, or crumpets with peanut butter and grated cheese. So whatever is practical and whatever is something you like and that you can get in, it needs to happen. So it must be something that clicks every day. All right, next one. I think that was all, yes. I probably left out the slide on competition or race days, but I mean, it's just a replica of what you're doing in your training. It's more of the same. So that should give you more than enough to train with and to prepare with. Thanks so much.
Nikki, awesome. Thank you. Let me pop my mic on. Nikki, that was awesome. Thank you so much for that. So much great information. I'm sure people are going to go back and watch that. The recording of this webinar will be available on this YouTube channel as soon as we're done as well. So if you didn't manage to get all of that in, please feel free to come back and watch it again over the next day or two to really make sure you take that information in. I'm going to get Lindsay back in just a mo as well, Nikki, but there are a few questions that have come through that are really pertinent to what you were talking about. And one of them has got to do with overhydration. And this one is from Philip Woodendall. Philip saying, there was mention of overhydration. Please, can you explain how this happens on a race and how do you avoid it? What's the alternative? And I think a lot of people worry about dehydration, Nikki, but hypernatremia is probably more dangerous if I'm to believe what I'm told.
Yeah, Hyponatremia is more dangerous because it can actually cause brain swelling, and that can cause death. So the hyponatremia or the overhydration refer to, think of you diluting your sodium levels in the blood. Okay, and sodium is extremely important to control the pressure of fluid around the membrane. So if you're going to overdrink, you dilute it, and then there's a lot of fluid that will move intracellular, and that can cause that the cells are actually swelling. And that is quite dangerous, especially if it happens in the brain. So the main reason for this is overdrinking. So usually it's difficult to find, am I overdrinking or not? Because sometimes some of us, when we get tired, we drink to feel better, all right? And sometimes even the tiredness can even be alleviated by just walking, slowly, just a walk strategy, and then you start running again. So to try and avoid it is to, obviously, I would do a sweat. I would weigh myself before and after some of my runs to see if I'm overdrinking. If you're overdrinking, your weight is going to increase. Okay, you will feel puffy sometimes. You will feel it on a watch, maybe that's getting more, tight around your arms. You can do so so that's the one thing. The other thing also is the intake of sodium does help a little bit, but if you're going to have to take sodium to prevent overhydration, it's going to be so salty that you're in any case not going to be able to drink it. All right. So I think the best advice would be get your own sweat rate, weigh yourself before and after your trainings, and see what's going on there. And if you, for any what reason, gain weight, it is a big possibility that you're overdrinking.
All right, great question there. Thank you so much for that, Philip. Nikki, another question for you. This one from Skyella. Skyella saying, I'm looking to lose weight while training hard and fueling for this. Any tips on how to best to do this? And Nikki, I can vouch because I'm in the same boat. Obviously, want to be a little bit lighter come Comrades race day, but it's quite hard to get that balance right.
It is hard, especially because you're constantly hungry. If you do the fueling well for what you're going to do, you will eliminate quite a bit of the hunger thereafter. And I think the other thing as well, especially with sweet cravings, if you're somebody that craves a lot of sweet stuff, if you put sweet stuff in your training set, with other words, you train with carbohydrate drinks, or you train with chews or jelly sweets or those kind of things, it does make the craving for sweet things much, much easier. If you are looking to manipulate macronutrients to try and lose weight, I will increase the protein intake, limit the carbohydrate intake, but you feed carbohydrate around your training. Make sure you eat a carb before you go and train. Make sure there's carbs in your training set, and make sure your recovery meal has got carbohydrate. And then the rest of the day, increase the protein maybe. So have a big piece of chicken with salad or vegetables. In between, eat protein dominant snacks, like something like, a little bit of nuts with a fruit, but not double sandwiches or cereal bars or those kind of things. And then the next meal, again, some vegetables with a protein portion. I would be cautious about this because in order for you to lose weight, you need to be in a negative energy balance. And if you're going to be in a negative energy balance, it means you've got a negative energy store. So therefore, if you're not going to fuel your trainings well whilst you're doing this, because I think a lot of people, the first thing they want to give up is the sports drink and the during training, and I want to try and fast it, and you're putting yourself up for failure, because tonight it's chaos, because then we want to eat everything that's around. So we end up eating huge suppers, but we do a fasted run. So you're basically not losing weight, and you're also not doing your run any favor. All right. Mm-hmm. So eat well around the run and rather decrease throughout the rest of the day.
Yeah, Nikki, I have to laugh because this is the classic Comrades conundrum. You can't decide if you're still hungry or if you're hungry again. That's the sort of balance that we're always fighting, I think. I'm bringing Lindsay back in here because I'm not sure which one of you can answer this next question. But a couple of people have asked this, and it is from Carl Erasmus. What fuel is supplied on the run? Obviously, there are a lot of aid stations, Lindsay. What sort of stuff is available on the course, and what should you bring yourself? I don't know, Nikki, if you know, or Lindsay, who wants to take this one?
I know the answer to that, and they will release it kind of on a table by table, much closer to the race. But essentially, Thirsty is the race sponsor, so that's pretty much the same as Powerade, Energade, Gatorade. So those kind of drinks, if you know those, Thirsty is pretty much the same. So Thirsty water, potatoes, bananas, oranges, jelly babies, jelly tots, little sandwiches, potato chips, as in crisps for the English on the call, Michal, which is a traditional South African or African drink. Um, they normally have two flavors, vanilla and something else. Can't remember the other one. And they'll have Coca-Cola. And then in the second half, they will have cream soda or variants thereof, those kind of drinks. And then there will be all sorts of other things in between. And I think that's really Nikki's point, is that you can get almost anything on the side of the road. There are people that set up little tables with bar ones, jelly babies, jelly beans, sour worms, sandwiches, boerewors rolls, you name
Steak.
it. But don't try it on race day. Like, I always tell people nothing new on race day until everything is lost, and then all bets are off. But certainly don't try something while you're feeling relatively okay still, and then it completely ruins the good thing going. But I mean, you can get Chelsea buns, donuts. I mean, I'm just trying to, but in terms of what the race will supply, it'll be the things that I went through. So little sandwiches, potatoes, bananas, oranges, potato crisps, Thirsty, Michal, and in the second half, cream soda, etc.
Cream soda for the win, second half of Comrades. You're never going to taste a better cream soda in your life. This is the $1 million question. We get asked it all the time, and I don't know if you each want to add a little bit, but Martha wants to know, what can I use for cramps?
So I've answered this question so many times, okay? But what I realized actually is that we can train better, we can do the strength training, we can do a run walk strategy. So those are the preventative things that you can do to try and stop the cramps from happening. If you are someone who always cramps, you can try, cramp not, cramp stop, electrolyte things. But we know from research that's very, very few cramps are actually caused from nutrition. But once you are actually physically cramping, then there are a few things you can try, and they effectively disrupt neural transmission. And so in effect, they try to not destabilize, that's not the right, disrupt. They try to disrupt the muscular contractions, and that is things like Rennie's, pickle juice, capsicum. So at the moment, the one product that I know is worth trying is called Cramp Fix, and that is pure pickle juice, basically. So those are things you can do while you are physically cramping. You can try and block up those beta gated channels to stop the muscle contraction from happening. It's not going to get rid of the cramps, but it will reduce the severity of the cramps. But in terms of what can you do about cramping, it's fuel well, because it is part of that cramping mechanism is 100% fatigue. So fuel properly, take lots of walk breaks, do your strength training, and prepare as well as you can.
Cool. Nikki, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that?
No, I think Lindsay covered it. It really is boiling down to that.
Cool. Question here with regards to sort of training your gut and stopping to having to go to the loo. And obviously there's two parts to this. If you need to wee, that's one thing. But if you end up with runner's trots, as they call it, what can you do to sort of make sure that things go according to plan with your gut on race day?
Yeah, gut is quite unpredictable, Brad, and running does increase, decrease the transit time, so that running is one of the things that we prescribe for constipation. So it is going to be hard to try and reverse it. I think it is important to train the gut beforehand so that the gut knows what's coming in, so that you also know how your gut reacts towards stuff. I think that is extremely important. If there is problems currently with runner's trots, so it's you need to look at it and you need to sort it out before you go. There's certain foods that can actually increase the risk. Caffeine being one, excess magnesium being the other one, fiber component, for some people milk, for some people excess fructose, and a lot of the time also concentrated carbohydrate stuff. So we take gels, but we don't take water with it. That can cause the gut to really, be uncomfortable as such. So there's a little bit of a list that you need to tick off. You also must play with timing in and around when to eat before you go and run. At the moment, I'm struggling, or most people that struggles with runner's trots at the moment will then run without eating at all. So that's not going to work on Comrades Day. So we need to bite the bullet, and now is the time to struggle and get over the struggle so that you're comfortable for the day of Comrades. We don't like to drink stuff to stop the gut, like Imodium or those kind of things, because there's always, it's a muscle relaxant type of, so yeah, there will be negative consequences towards it. If there is no other way, then it can be an option, but then we would like to work with a medical practitioner with that. But sort it out now. And a thing that can really work well for a gut is a product called Smecta, but it's a soluble fiber product, or you can use a grated apple. So peel an apple, grate the apple, let it become nice and, brown. Take 2 or 3 big spoons of that before you go out for a run, because it got pectin, so it settles the stomach. And you also get these puree fruits, like a purity sachet, like a baby food apple sachet, that sometimes also can be beneficial if you struggle with gut discomfort.
That is super, super interesting, Nikki. All right, just a couple of resources that I did want to share. If you haven't checked them out yet as well, Lindsay and I do a series of podcasts every single week where we talk you through your training. The podcast is called Down. It's available on all podcast players, wherever you listen to your podcast. You can scan that QR code right now and you can subscribe absolutely free, and we'll guide you through your Comrades journey right up to and beyond race day. So if you haven't subscribed to that podcast yet, please do. We also publish the video version on this YouTube channel. So make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any of those. If you need help with your training as well, grab our Comrades Marathon Roadmap by scanning that QR code on screen right now, or just head over to coachparry.com/comrades-marathon-roadmap. You can get access to that right now as well. Another great question, and please do keep those questions coming in the chat. We're going to stick around and answer as many of them as we can. We are in peak training, as Lindsay said. It's time to panic, and it also means that it's time to get to bed early. So we're not going to keep you here all night, that is for sure. But a question from Jody. Team Jody says, why do my fingers swell? They look like fat sausages. This seems to happen during longer runs, longer than 3 hours. I'm taking about 60 grams of carbs per hour. Gel chews that contain salt, magnesium, potassium. Drink water at every stop. What could be causing the swelling fingers, and is it a concern? Who wants to grab that one?
Sorry, I'm muted, but that felt a little bit like exactly what you were describing there, Nikki. So yeah, I think if you can more or less just reiterate what you were saying earlier about hyponatremia, but that really does sound like one of those early
signs.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I would be careful in terms of what we spoke about, overhydration or hyponatremia. So my first stop would be weighing yourself before and after. If you retain fluid and you feel like those fat sausage fingers, there's a possibility that you're going to weigh more after the run than before the run, and that would give you an indication that you're drinking too much. Then you need to sort out, are you drinking according to a schedule that somebody has signed up for you, or are you drinking according to thirst? Because if you're drinking according to thirst, there's not a great risk that you will overhydrate unless, as I said, sometimes when when we're tired or fatigued, the fact that we drink water actually, in our mind, we think we're alleviating fatigue, and it's not a real thing. It's just, it causes you to stop, and therefore you rest a bit. But it is something to be concerned about. I would be concerned about it if I were you, and I would definitely start off by just, do your own sweat rate, weigh yourself before and after, see what's going on, and from there, rather work out a plan that's more specifically towards you.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Nikki. Lindsay, a training question for you from Stephen Detty. Stephen saying, what's the longest training run one should do to prepare for Comrades? One of my favorite questions. I know you also get asked this one a lot.
Yeah. So, I mean, the longest run you need to do is 42 Ks. And the absolute maximum run should be 56 Ks, which is the Two Oceans Marathon. So I don't believe anyone but the elites should be running further than that. And if you're not doing oceans, I would say 50 kilometers is absolutely far enough.
Lindsay, I'm gonna jump in here and ask you just to I'm trying to think which roadshow it was that you did. I think it was in Pretoria a few weeks ago, and you spoke about sort of how Comrades training, I don't want to say has evolved, but sort of the history of Comrades and who was running and how they sort of came about to these really long runs, where those numbers came from. Because I think a lot of people have got this number in their mind. There's guys at running clubs around South Africa talking, you need to do 60 Ks, you need to do 70 Ks. Where did those numbers come from, and why shouldn't we be doing it?
So the original Comrades long run was 64 kilometers, 4 weeks out from race day. And that really just came from the race exploded in the early 80s. So in 1979, there were like 1,900, I think, finishes of the Comrades Marathon. And then by 1984, we were on to like 12,000, 1986, 15,000 people finishing the race. And so during that time of explosion, people were like, hang on, how do we train for this race? And so they turned to these 1,900 runners, many of which have already had green numbers. And the craziest stat that I saw was that in the days where there were like just under and just over 2,000 people finishing Comrades, 900 of them were getting silver medals. I mean, nowadays with 24,000 people or 20,000, I mean, this is the first year of 24,000. Let me not exaggerate. 20,000 people entering, 16 to 18,000 finishing. I mean, we get between 400 and 600 silver medal finishes. So half the field was finishing with silver medals. That's the same half that were doing multiple Comrades. And so people turned around and said, hey, how do we train for this race? Well, you've got to do X number of kilometers, January to June. And oh yeah, you've got to do a 64K training run 4 weeks before the race. Now, the big problem very simply with that is that if Bongamusa and Tembu goes out to run 64 Ks, I go out to run 64 Ks, and Brad goes out to run 64 Ks, we're not getting the same exposure. Okay, it's not the same training run. We may run at a similar relative intensity. So we all go out and we all run 64 Ks nice and easy, but Bongamusa's out there for 4 hours. I'm out there for 6 hours. Brad's out there for 8.5 hours. So maybe the same relative effort, but we are out there for so much longer. And so the damage that we do in that 64K run is actually so extreme that we tend to run our Comrades on that day, on the 64K, and 4 weeks certainly isn't enough time to recover from it. And I hear the argument from people where they say, oh yeah, but what about, I mean, I'm going to be out there for 12 hours. Bongamusa is only going to be out there for 5.5 hours. So, you know, from that relative time, I need to be out there longer. And it's just simply not true. From a physiological and physical development point of view, we start to get diminishing returns from about 3 hours. So anything longer than 3 hours, you are getting very limited benefit from. In fact, the major benefits that you get from runs that are over 3 hours are simply psychological and your ability to practice your nutrition strategy. So it's just not worth doing those long runs. You're not getting out of them what you think you're getting out of them. In fact, that probably by doing too many of them and doing them too long, you're probably harming your ability to do well at Comrades.
Yeah, I think that really does explain it. And I mean, I've been working with you for many, many years, and I think it was 2 weeks ago, Thursday, when you told that story. I was like, the penny dropped for me, and I think it'll drop for a lot of people when they hear that. Another great training question. So, Linz, this is for you from Charlie. Charlie saying, is it better to do 2 big double days, like a 35 morning, 15 in the afternoon, or one long run of 50 to 55 Ks? I just find the 55K long run takes too much out of me.
So, Charlie, in just from the way you framed that, for you, 35 in the morning, 15K in the afternoon, absolutely is fine. So there's plenty of evidence to suggest that splitting up training runs is just as beneficial. And as I said just now in my last answer, that the biggest benefit of putting it together and doing the 50K in a row is the psychological and the ability to practice nutrition for long periods of time. But in terms of preparing you for Comrades, physically, splitting that run up is absolutely fine.
Cool. Great question. Here's another one for you. This one is from Sonki. Sonki saying, I'm training for my back-to-back, but I'm finding it really challenging and feeling a bit demotivated. Is this normal, or could it be anxiety setting in?
Look, it could be both, and it is a little bit normal. I'd be interested to know what you did post Comrades, because I often find second year ultra running is a little bit tough, and part of it is because a lot of people don't take long enough time to recover properly after Comrades, and so they kind of get back into training when they're a little bit tired, and it just kind of feels like you're stuck in a rut and you can't kind of get to where you were last year. Everything feels like a grind. It feels harder than last year. And that can definitely eat away at your motivation. And then I often find the kind of, it leads to a similar kind of place, but the other extreme is that second year ultra running's easy syndrome, where you just don't train nearly enough. And so when you get to the races that you used to do and they don't go nearly as well, and you start to worry about what's coming for Comrades, and the solution isn't to train really, really hard, but it's just to get consistent and build up slowly. But the anxiety is kicking in, and we know that anxiety robs you of motivation. It pushes, it causes procrastination. I think maybe that's the right word. So it could be both of those things.
Right, I love this question, Lindsay. Samantha is asking, can we change socks, shoes, shorts during the race? One thing I know you can't change is you can't change the runner that's running in those short shoes and socks. So the gear what's your take on the gear? You definitely can't swap runners, unfortunately.
No, 100%. I mean, to be honest, it's really not the worst thing in the world. I would do it, where you've got someone that can help you so that you can do the changes quickly. But in terms of chafing and blisters and feeling good and your feet feeling good, absolutely. Just, make sure that all the stuff, the new stuff and the stuff that you start with, is all stuff that you've run in and tried before. So there's absolutely no problem. Look, there was 1 year where I was going to change socks. And quite frankly, when I got to it was an up run. And when I got to Umlaas Road, I just looked at that bag with my socks and I was like, nah, I'm not sitting down to change anything. And I just kept on going. So you also just have to be open to the idea that when you get tired, sore, and grumpy, sometimes you just get into the mindset of, no, I just want to get to the finish. Thank you very much.
All righty, cool. Lindsay, this question always pops up this time of the year from Gordon. Do you recommend the 3-in-1 race this weekend?
Brad, I've got a very funny story for you. The organizer of the 3-in-1 is looking for us.
if you just to give everyone some context,
he posted on our podcast this week and said, "How can I get hold of Coach Perry?"
All right, just so that everybody's in on this inside joke, we spoke about it on Monday's edition of the Down podcast. So you can scan that QR code and go check that out. But Lindsay, in short, What are your thoughts on the 3 in 1 and why? I think it's important to give it context.
No, so listen, it's a as standalone events, the 10K, the half marathon, the marathon, they are great events. I don't want people to not go to Cosmos, but I do not want anybody doing all 3 races in one day. Okay, so it's very simple. It's not complicated. It's madness to run 77 kilometers in one day as we are starting peak training. I mean, when I say that sentence out loud, I play it back to myself and I think to myself, if anybody says that out loud, I'm going to run 77 Ks in the first week of my peak training. There's nothing logical about that. And it leads to a lot of runners being injured and not being able to train for Comrades. So if you haven't qualified yet and you're using Cosmos as your qualifying run, fantastic. I have heard such good reports about what an amazing marathon that is to run. So you go there and qualify. You let your family members do the 10 or the half. Or if you want to go there and do the 10 and a half, awesome. That's a 30K brilliant training run with refreshments, you name it, but not the 10, the 21, and the 42, please.
Cool. Lindsay, I'm going to squeeze in 2 more questions if I can. I know we are running out of time, and we've got a pretty cool video to share with you as well that's coming up in just a moment. So this one from Franchonette, and there's lots of these sorts of questions have come in about running 2 oceans and then going on and running Comrades. Franchonette saying, is it wise to run 2 oceans and then do a 50K on the 27th of April and then Comrades? That's coming from someone who's had multiple hip stress fractures previously, but just obviously that's a consideration. But for the rest of us who don't have any injury issues, what should the build-up be from Oceans, last long run, and then Comrades?
Brad, that's not the date of False Bay. False Bay is the 4th
False Bay is
of
a
May,
week after
correct?
that. Yeah, it's the 4th of May.
Yeah, because that then seemed very, very close together. So the answer is no, and I would discourage it for anyone, but for you with a history of stress fractures, absolutely not. I mean, that's 3 weeks. That's 3 weeks, which is the absolute minimum that you should have between training marathons and ultras. And so with your history, absolutely not. I wouldn't do that. I do think that doing Oceans is, while you're training for Comrades and you're nice and fit, and it falls kind of in April where we want to do a marathon or ultra as part of our training experience. It's far enough away from Comrades that as long as you don't race it, you will be able to recover from it quite well. And then if you do live in the Cape, there is now the False Bay 50, which is on the 4th of May and 4 weeks later. And we are currently talking to the race organizers behind the scenes, and there's a possibility that they're going to extend the cutoff so that the marginal Comrades finishers and Oceans finishers don't have to go there and race a 50, because that's a terrible idea. But if you can go there and do Comrades pace for False Bay, then it's probably a really good option as a final run. So for the general population, Oceans as a training run, again, your marginal finishers are, that's just the reality of their life, is that they've got to then do that too hard. But then you've got to recover the week after, make sure you look after yourself. I tell people to eat like they've never seen food before. So, Nikki, I don't know if that's maybe taking it a bit far, but I feel like they really need to fuel up in that week after doing something like that to give them the best chance of recovering properly. And then to look at a 40 to 45 Ks, either the 4th of May or the 10th of May, those weekends.
Awesome stuff. So those are the 2 that I'm running. So if anybody's interested, it's going to be Oceans and then the False Bay 50. So if you are in the Western Cape, we look forward to seeing you there. Nikki, here's a question for you. This one is from Malcolm. Malcolm wants to know, are 24-hour fasts once or twice a week and normal feeding in between a good build-up for Comrades?
Oh, the answer is no. If you do the fast as trying to enhance performance, The answer is no. If the fast must be there because of religious reasons or any other reasons, then you can do it. Like, we're busy with Ramadan at the moment as well, so one must be careful then just to make the running on the days of the fasting or just after the fasting to really do the recovery runs, the slowest stuff. Just you need to time your runs so that there is energy available when you do the hard runs. I think that summarizes it. So you're going to just have to move stuff around the fasting. I don't say you can't fast, but if the fasting is for performance, the answer is no. Okay.
Cool. Great stuff. Thank you very much, Nikki. And then Lindsay, last question for you, if I may, from Tasneem. I love these sorts of questions because I have been in this boat many, many times. So Tasneem says, Coach, I left my Two Oceans qualifier too late and didn't make it. Now that I haven't qualified for Two Oceans, should I still consider running Comrades? My first marathon was in November with a time of 5:08. What advice can you give to Tasneem and to other people who are in this sort of boat that are marginal but haven't qualified yet? Is it too late to carry on and run Comrades?
So Tasneem, if you left it too late, as in you just didn't run a marathon, then I would say no, you're okay. And at 5:08, you don't have to improve much at all. So I think it'll be more important, like, what training have you done rather than the timing of the race. So if you've been training fairly well, and there are loads of training opportunity, qualifying opportunities between now and May, I would say there's still plenty of time for you to both qualify and train well for Comrades. Of course, if you left the qualifying too late, partly because you just haven't been training properly, and so you actually haven't done the groundwork, you haven't created the habit, you're not ready to start training yet, then you probably have left it too late. And then I would rather put your energy into training for a marathon and then getting that time under 5 hours so that you're in a better position for Comrades in 2026.
Cool. Lindsay, I'm squeezing another question in because I love this and it's made a huge difference to my running. So this one is from, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that name. I'll leave that to you. Pi Pacific Calibra Uwasi, I think, saying, how can other sports like swimming, cycling help in preparation? Any advice on the use thereof? Lindsay, I'm a huge fan of cross training. I know you are too. For folks who are thinking about adding, is it worthwhile?
Absolutely. So for the general runner, running more than 4 days a week, much like doing lots of long runs that are much further than 3 hours, has like these real diminishing returns. For the average runner, doing more than 4 runs a week also brings diminishing returns. But adding things like swimming and cycling can bring a much better improvement in performance because it takes out the high impact nature of the running. So we remove the damage, but we still build this big cardiovascular engine. So if you're running 4 days a week and you're doing your strength training and you've still got a little bit more time to train over and above that, then yeah, swimming, cycling, excellent forms of complementary training and much better than just packing in more kilometers.
Cool stuff. All right, team, thank you so much to everybody who was on the call tonight. Don't forget, if you do want to get hold of Nikki, if you need some help, there are her details. You can pop her an email or reach out to her on X as well. If you need anything from Comrades, those are the details. If you need any questions, if you want to find out about updating your license number or qualifier, that's how you can get hold of the office. And then don't forget as well, if you'd like to check out some of the resources that we've got for you on coachbarry.com, specifically check out the Down podcast. You can scan that QR code. Please do make sure, and I'm going to ask everybody now, Lindsay and I were actually chatting about it the other day, less than half of the people who watch our Comrades videos aren't subscribed to this channel, okay? We put out Comrades content every single week. If you're not watching it, you are missing out on getting your Comrades medal. So make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. It is on screen. Just hit that button and you won't miss out on anything. And if you need help with your training, time is nigh, okay? It's time to panic, as Lindsay said. If you are stressing and you're worried about finishing this race, we can help you. Check out the Comrades Marathon Roadmap to scan that QR code right now. And we have helped thousands of people get their Comrades medal over the last decade and a bit, and we'd love to help you get yours. So check out the Comrades Marathon Roadmap as well. Thank you very much to Nikki de Villiers, Koliswa Mtembu. Thank you so much to you as well from Comrades, and the coach Lindsay Parry. We look forward to catching up with you in the next webinar. We'll send out the comms on that when that is happening. If you are in one of the areas where the roadshows and novice seminars are happening, be sure to check those out as well. And Mr. Price Sport, who's the official apparel sponsor of the 2025 Comrades Marathon, asked us to share this incredible video with you. So we're going to end with it this evening. It is well worth the watch from the entire team. Here, we look forward to catching up with you again soon. Stay safe, happy training, and we'll chat soon. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.
Sean Meiklejohn running in the Mr. Price Club, receiving the accolades of 20,000 people. The first Natal
South African smashes the Comrades record of 5:18.12. Just an exceptional performance from David van Diemen.
Welcome to the story of the longest standing professional running team in the country, the Mr. Price Running Club, now known as Max Delete. Mr. Price, as a group, and the Comrades Marathon goes all the way back to 1995, where Sean Meiklejohn walked into the offices and said, if you sponsor me, I'll guarantee you that I'm going to win the Comrades Marathon this year, and you'll have your red and white branding all over the TV. And that's exactly what happened. Next year will mark 30 years of involvement with the group and the Comrades Marathon. Back in 2003, Gwen van Lingen, who was a former Olympian, 2 Oceans winner herself, she was the manager of the Mr. Price running team, and I was tasked with turning the team from fully Russian to proudly South African. And that year we managed to sign the current Comrades winner of that year, Fusi Nhlapo, Walton Corsi, Joseph Ikaning. I handed over the team management role to my good friend Martin Ngwenya back in 2017. He's then since grown the club, and he's looking forward to some brilliant results at this year's race. In 1995, Sean Meiklejohn walked into the offices of Mr. Price with a bold proposition for the then MD Alistair MacArthur. He promised Alistair that if Mr. Price sponsored him to become a full-time runner, he would win the Comrades Marathon and guarantee over 5 hours of television coverage. True to his word, Sean won the race, making Mr. Price's debut in the Comrades Marathon with a victory.
very little now stood between Sean Meiklejohn and his first Comrades victory. Sean Meiklejohn running in the Mr. Price Club, receiving the accolades of 20,000 people, the first Natal victor since 1979. And at last a smile. Was it the victory, or was it his wife standing at the finish line, pregnant with their first child? A happy day for the Meiklejohn.
Russian runner Alexei Volgin also finished third that day in a Mr. Price vest. The following year, Dmitry Grishin clinched another victory for Mr. Price, setting the tone for a legacy of excellence. By 2006, the club had achieved an incredible milestone: over 100 Comrades Marathon top 10 gold medal finishes. During this time, Mr. Price became the official RT sponsor of the Comrades Marathon, handling all timing, RT and entries infrastructure, ensuring the smooth running of the event. Legends of the sport and the Comrades Marathon, Elena and Olesia Nogalieva, also known as the Russian twins, dominated the Comrades Marathon for many years. While they did run for other teams at times, most of their victories were in the colours of Mr. Price. Since the 2013 Comrades Marathon, the club has been known as Max Elite. In 2016, David Khatebe, in a pair of Max Marathon races off the shelf, smashed the previous down run record.
Something absolutely remarkable today by him pushing so hard in the closing stages, and this is it, the final few meters. He's running under our noses at Sahara Stadium, Kingsmead. David Khatebe, South African, smashes the Comrades record of 5:18.12. We'll get that verified, the time, and still foot enough to do push-ups after. Just an exceptional performance from David Khatebe.
Despite this record being surpassed, David still holds the fastest per kilometer average in the race's history due to the longer distance. From 2020, Mr. Price Sport became the official technical apparel sponsor of the Comrades Marathon, creating merchandise available to all at the expo and the official well sought after Comrades Marathon runners race tee.
Partnership we are really proud of. For us, it's two iconic brands coming together, two iconic South African brands, and actually two iconic KwaZulu-Natal brands coming together. So we're the official technical sponsor of the Comrades. We'd like to call ourselves your training partner. We've been able to offer our runners and the supporters a wide variety of product, everything from your apparel to your footwear, to all your accessories, to the supplements you need. So there is so much to choose from. And for every purchase that is made within the Mr. Price Sport brand, whether it's a store or whether it's the Expo store, it does go to our Mr. Price Foundation, which does amazing work in the communities, not only in schools, but also creating jobs. And if you look at the Comrades Marathon and you look at Mr. Price Sport, we're really about giving that opportunity to the everyman and to the elite athletes. So yeah, it just seems like a match made in heaven.
Since becoming a bigger part of the partnership, the brand have had activations at the Comrades Marathon Expo and the Mr. Price Sport water table, which has become a runner's favorite over the last 3 years. The heart of the Max Elite Running Club lies in its runners and the rigorous training camps. Here, athletes prepare for the grueling race, supported by dedicated managers like Martin and Gwenya. Here is a look into the life of the runners and their training leading up to the big day.
This is Martin Gwenya from Mr. Price Sport, the Max Elite team manager. We are here in Underberg for Comrades Marathon, and we are here with our guys training in the high altitude. We've been coming here for more than 10 years. We're familiar with the place, and it's easier again to come in the place where you are familiar with, especially with the road when you're training. So it makes it easier for the guys, even if the car is not there for seconding, because they know the route now, they know the place. If you remember, there are lots of guys that were running for the club that won races training here in the same place. I won't mention names, but there are lots of guys that the previous winners of Comrades, they are coming in the same camp. This place is very good for anyone who wants to do Comrades.
2 months, full 2 months now, then I think you'll be happy for that. The camp is very important to build the team spirit and then tackling with ourselves for the way we are going to run. Before we run, we sit down and then agree with the pace that we are going to use that day. And then for the whole week, we know exactly what the mileage that we are hunting for. Then as we are diva, so even the pace it will be diva, but at the end of the day, we'll achieve all the goals that we need to achieve.
The legacy of the Max Elite Running Club is one of dedication and excellence to the sport of running. Here's to many more years of success and unforgettable moments.
Hi guys, my name is Bianca and I'm from the Mr. Price Sport marketing team. We are so excited to be with you again on this journey as your official technical apparel sponsor as you head towards the Ultimate Human Race on June 8th, 2025. As you've seen in the video before this, the partnership of Mr. Price Sport and Comrades has come leaps and bounds over the years. And with that in mind, so has the technology and innovation within our product range. As Mr. Price Sport, we not only want to be with you on race day, cheering you on, but we also want to be with you as you build up to the race day as your official training partner. Mr. Price Sport has a wide variety of training apparel, accessories, strength equipment, recovery items, as well as our footwear that will help you get from right now all the way to the start line. A bit more about the race. As you may or may not have heard, Mr. Price Sport is giving you 89,000 reasons to run your Comrades Marathon in Maxed. That's right. We are giving one lucky person that is choosing to run the Comrades Marathon in Maxed or Max Elite footwear a chance to win 89,000 Rand. All you have to do to enter is the following.
Log into your Comrades profile with the details that you used to enter the race. Scroll down to Event and Medical Info and click Edit. If you scroll further, you will find a question that stipulates what brand of shoe you will race in. Click on the drop-down menu and select the shoe Maxed and Save. Once you've done that, you have officially entered to win 89,000 Rand for running your Comrades Marathon in Maxed.
We are so excited to see you on the road and in your last steps to the journey to Comrades Marathon. So good luck, and don't forget to #Marathon in Maxed.